Hello, it's Denise from Women Beyond a Certain Age. I'm doubly excited today because my new friend, Chef Deborah VanTrece, is our guest. Now, if you don't know Deborah, I think you've been living under a rock, okay? You're not paying attention, but most of the listeners here we have such a mix of listeners, and I know you're gonna love this podcast. Now, let me tell you one or two things. Deborah is a chef and a restaurant owner and a mother and married, and busy. So she's just got a new cookbook author. Deborah, when your book first came out, by the way, which I absolutely love, and we're going to talk about that, I just looked at it and I thought, man, this woman's busy. That's all I can say. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I know how busy you are. I totally appreciate it. All right. Well, we're going to talk about several things.
Okay.
I'd love to talk just to get started, because it doesn't have to be in order. Your cookbook.
Okay.
The Cooked and Sold cookbook. I want to tell you something. I have been a judge for IACP and for the James Beard Awards.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen tons of cookbooks, and people ask me to review them. And then sometimes I have to say to people, oh, I'm too busy because I don't want to, because it's obvious I don't like the book. Now, I took your book yesterday afternoon with a glass of wine, got back in my bed because I'd had a full day. And I have to tell you something. It's a beautiful book. But
thank you.
It's beautiful. But this is the big key to me to a great cookbook. Your introduction, those first few pages that I don't think anyone ever spends enough time on.
Yes.
It called me into the book. Okay. So I know that the cookbook, it just happened. I know you've been cooking. You went to cooking school in what, 1993?
Yes.
Okay. Shh. I know. Oh, no. Don't talk to me, honey. I just had my 70th birthday.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm so old. You know what I mean? Come on, please. I was at the Last Supper as a cocktail waitress. Now answer me this. Tell us a little bit. Maybe we need to start with a little bit about your background and your restaurant, and then we'll talk about the cookbook. So the people, because I have a tendency, because I have ADD, to jump all over the page. Tell us into food.
Well, it's like I'll jump all over the place with you because I have a little ADD also. So I'll follow you really, really, really well. But the story is, always enjoyed cooking. Was always in the kitchen with somebody. And really, I think it became a place for conversation for me because I was the only child. And, the adults were always in the kitchen cooking. So that was the only people I could talk to. So I would go in the kitchen with the adults, and of course, they're not going to let you sit there. You got to learn how to do something. So pick the green beans or come here, learn how to do this. So as long as they were talking, I was happy to do whatever. And I think I had a home economics class in 7th grade and was introduced to some things that I'd never seen before. The one that stands out was the fluffy omelet. And I'd never had an omelet. I'd never heard of an omelet. So I came home and omelets for everybody, fluffy omelets for everybody. And my mom got this great idea and said, you know what? Since you like to cook, let's get you a couple of cookbooks, and I'm going to give you so much money a week to budget for the groceries, and what you save will be your allowance. So from there, I learned how to budget money. I learned how to, cook and cook well, so I could keep as much money as I could in my pocket. And just always, like, at that point, loved cooking. My thing was, I thought everybody cooked. I grew up, everybody cooked. So I just assumed it's nothing special about it. Everybody does this. Fast forward 2 years later, I became a flight attendant, got the opportunity to live in different countries and, experience cuisine and culture, and, still thinking, because everybody I'm around knows how to cook. I made the decision to go to culinary school as a secondary career, actually something that I felt like I could fall back on because that flight attendant gig is just not the most stable thing in the world.
Oh.
Airlines going on strikes, things of that nature. So I entered culinary school. Then I realized, okay, the simplest thing people didn't know how to do, like cut up a chicken. I didn't even know at that point they had chicken already cut up. We cut chicken from the time I was a little kid, and picked up a knife, you knew how to cut a chicken. So that's when I started understanding everybody can't do this. There's an art to this, and I'm pretty good. So let's see where I can take this.
The valuable lesson that your mother taught you, when you were just saying that, Deborah, about you're going to cook and the money that you keep is yours. You know what? And it's like home economics. You said several things about in home economics. These are things that could be brought back into our society today to help children. That was brilliant. Your mother was a great idea. And not only it kept you busy, and it kept you out of trouble.
Kept me out of trouble, yes.
All my mother ever said is, I had ballet lessons. We studied, walking. I mean, everything I did, Deborah, my mother, people would say, oh, your mother was so great with you. I said, she was trying to keep me out of trouble. That's
yeah.
In today's lingo, people would say she was trying to keep me off the pole. But I was never that thin. Anyway, all right, I get it. How fabulous. So, traveled, you realize, and one thing else you said, Deborah, even though some people can cook, some people aren't really good at it. And I don't mean that, you know that. I've worked with people that even though they thought they could cook. I'm standing back thinking to myself, oh, they haven't found this.
They're not good at this. Yeah. Poor thing.
And the food's not good. I don't want to eat it, And when I don't want to eat, that's when I know the food's not good because
I've had some of those meals too. Yeah.
All right. So how do you get to all of a sudden be a restaurant owner?
So coming out of culinary school, I initially, they said, oh, you don't come out of culinary school and get a job as a sous chef, just get a job as a cook, you work your way up. Well, I had a 4.0 GPA, I was valedictorian, I got a little job because I'd never worked in a restaurant situation, never professionally. So I realized, okay, you're kind of the underdog, so go get a job right quick. So I got a job like my last or so quarter in school and graduated and got a sous chef position. And it didn't turn out very well. I was working for a man who turned out to be a little bit racist and very condescending, who told me he would have never hired me had he known how good I was. He felt very, very threatened, very, very intimidated. And luckily, I was in a position where I still had my job as a flight attendant if I decided to go back. And I was one of these who, okay, I'm not going to stick around and take too much stuff off of you. I've been around a little while because I started this as a second career. I'm a little older, so the idea of putting up with somebody else's crap was just not a part of what I was going to do.
I think that our sisters separated at birth.
I'm telling you.
I embroider that on pillows.
Yeah. It's like, it's only so much crap you're going to take. And after a certain year, you say, that's enough of this,
Deborah, when I was going to school in 1984, there were only 3 women in my culinary class. I went to the CCA in San Francisco. All the chefs were European. They had no idea why we were there and would say things on a daily basis like, I don't know why you are here, girl, because you will get no jobs. You are no good. And why don't you get me a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Which they really wanted to drink. They really wanted a coffee cup and brandy in it. But the bottom line, the whole time I was there, and unlike you with your GPA 4.0, they were kind of scotch taping my diploma together because I have always been a doer, not a studier. Okay, that's But I thought to myself, the more negative they were to me about I wouldn't get a job or nobody wanted women in the kitchen, the more I thought, you're wrong. I thought I've managed my father's real estate office before that. There were 50 salesmen. I understand money. I understand people's emotions. I understand sales. Fuck you. I can make broth. Okay.
Yeah.
I can make broth. So I know exactly what you felt. You know what's amazing to me, that it was a decade later and so little had really changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went on and I read what I did when I got out of school, Deborah, then I got one job in a restaurant. It was hideous. And I moved to LA and I got into catering. And big fancy parties that we were doing there. And then I lucked out. This was a piece of luck. The chef that was there was addicted to cocaine. So I watched him. I thought, oh, he's going to drop pretty soon. And he did. And they made me I shouldn't have kept leaving that cocaine on his, but it was just too easy. No, I was the organized sous chef who all of a sudden the kitchen was cleaner and faster than it had ever been. And they gave me the job.
Yeah.
So women, and this is for anyone that's listening, because we have some lovely young women. Gloria Steinem taught me, don't ask for a piece of somebody's pie, bake your own.
Yeah, exactly.
So, if we're going to stand around, if you think that we can stand around and wait for white guys to give us the power, that ain't happening.
And that is the segue into, that's how I ended up with my own restaurants. That's it. I was sick of waiting. I realized at a point, people who I work for, I don't like how you're doing things. And I'm a firm believer, if I don't like how you're doing it and you're in charge, either change the situation or shut your mouth. So I changed the situation and decided it was time for me to be in charge all the way and control how I was going to do it, when I was going to do it. So I did start out with catering, and then I opened a restaurant, small little restaurant back in 98. Because the landlord wanted retail, so I had a little 25, 30 seat restaurant. And I moved so fast doing a lot of these things that the idea of food critics and write-ups, that was way over my head. I thought that's for 5-star restaurants, that's the bougie restaurant, not the little spot in the little spot, 600 square feet with 20 something seats. It worked out, when I started, the phone started ringing off the hook one day, and I had to hear it from someone calling for a reservation that, well, you just have this incredible write-up, and kind of, establish a name in the city. I did well with that. And then I got a divorce, and a divorce where he was determined to knock me to my knees. And he did a good job of it, took everything. And I was a single parent and, trying to make my way, but I knew, you still can cook. Easiest thing to do is to keep catering. I'll revisit the restaurant thing one day.
Divorces, I've been married now the second time for 25 years. And I'm very grateful because he has been, he's been a partner.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And greatest support. One is in food, especially for women. As my career started to grow, he'd say to me, I don't understand why you women work so cheap. Why aren't you getting more money? I mean, I would introduce him to some of the legends of food at a food and wine festival. And he'd walk away and he'd say, you women are all working too cheap. And the first time he said it to me, I thought, oh no, that's just how food is.
Yeah.
Do you know? Oh, that's just, and then I thought to myself, huh? And I realized, so that's what you hope marriages are. My first marriage was also a learning experience. And he never really got a job.
Okay.
And that was difficult because I had put him through dental school. So I was expecting some payback.
You were investing. Yes.
I was investing. Oh, so much more polite than I was. And then when I realized that my investment smoked a lot of dope and didn't even clean up the ashtrays at the end of the day, I couldn't wait to get out. And but what we learn from that, I'm convinced. I mean, what doesn't kill you, that old expression, I learned I was never going to I was never going to tie my wagon to someone that,
Yes.
do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? That wasn't,
Yeah.
that didn't want to
Yes.
run the race
Yeah.
like I wanted to.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what happened to me. He had been the superstar in the limelight for so long, and all of a sudden the roles got reversed and didn't handle it very well. And also, he complained, but he didn't do anything about it. And I felt how you're not willing to take chances, you're not willing to grasp at opportunities. And I'm willing to bank on myself. And I want somebody who'll bank on me also, who says, okay, yeah, you can do this. And that's not what I got. I'm like, exit, stage left.
Brilliant and good for you. It's painful, but you know what? And sometimes, and this is hard for people, especially women, because, and you said it, I know in my situation, honey, economically, if we're tied in, if women haven't learned to make their own money, then they have babies on top of it.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? We put ourselves, as I say to my younger girlfriend sometimes, do not put yourself in a vulnerable position, because you don't know that this isn't the week that he's not falling in love with the girl that sold him a pair of shoes, or she falls in love with someone else, or all the things that happen, or God forbid, they die.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it's such a good point and good for you. But the learning lesson is a lifelong one. That's
definitely.
It was a favor to yourself that you got divorced, because look where you are now.
It was a favor. And it's like my mom, I remember her saying, you went from my house and then you got married and went to his house, and I was like, oh, I don't want to hear that. And she's like, now it's time for you to learn how to stand up and be an adult. And it really hit home. I'm like, she was right. I really didn't know how to stand on my own. And it's like, I think I knew it, but I hadn't had to. I didn't have to. Yeah. And so once I got put in a position where, okay, it's you, and it's you, and you have this little person you've got to make a way for. And that just propelled me to keep moving forward and watching my business grow. And by the time, she was adult, I decided it's time to go back to the restaurant industry, catering out of a church kitchen, which I was making way too much money to be in a church kitchen at that point. So like you've outgrown this. It's time for the next step.
You know what is so wonderful about catering, Deborah, is exactly that, though. You can control your hours. Yes. I love catering. I loved it. I had a fabulous career. And then the only reason, it was typical. I'd been doing it for about 10, 12 years. I had my own business. I'd worked for one of the most successful big caterers. But I got pulled into food styling and recipe development by celebrities.
Yes.
And though in some ways, the first few years, I didn't make as much money as I had made in catering, because I was kind of really making a lot of money. But I wanted to do something else, just like you wanted to do something else.
Yes.
And, there's a timing for everything if you're lucky enough in life. And you see that door and you think, okay, I'm going to step through this door. Now, so how has it been horrible in COVID for your restaurant, or how has it been manageable? Or with your attitude, you just decided you were going to make it work.
Yeah, we're going to make it work. It was one of those moments where I'm like, I'd be damned if I got this far and a disease is going to count me down. I'm like, no way. It's like, how dare you, COVID, think that this is going to happen and I'm going to roll over. They talk about the pivot. I pivot and turn to 360 degrees. And we're looking for a bigger space or a second space. So we did the right things the right way. There was no book. It just I used common sense. I thought what I wanted. And one of the big things we did, we've always been very active with the community. So the first thing we did, when we shut our doors, was come back in, open up, cook some food to start giving away. I've got food people are in need, let's cook and give things away. So we gave food away to the frontline workers, we gave seniors, we gave the other industry workers, food industry workers that didn't know what they were going to do. So we fed people. Then we came up with once we could open to do carry out, we did a pay what you can model for quite a while. And then we went to a whole nother concept, a total carry out concept with chicken, healthy options of chicken and farm to table vegetables to try to get the farmers back going a little bit that we had dealt with. And then the riots started here. Being here in Atlanta, it's a civil rights, it's the birthplace. And if you read the history, you know that a lot of the strategic planning, the safe space was the restaurants. And so we sat down, me and my family, and decided we've put this in place. We did UV ray filtration system. We did partitions. We took chairs out, but we still hadn't jumped and opened. And once all of the riots happened, we thought, you know what, let's open. Let's do a safe space, a place where diverse groups come and can sit and be on the same page and something positive come out of it instead of what was going on. It's like it's just another way to deal with all of the civil unrest. We opened last year, full service, half capacity on Juneteenth. So we're coming up on our year reopen anniversary. We cried tears when we saw the restaurant fill up and the support that we got from all people in the community. And, little by little, we've been like going nonstop with a completely full half capacity restaurant and then outdoor seating, completely full, just constantly turning tables. And little by little, we've added more seating. We still have not made it to 100% of our capacity, but we have made it to the same figures that we were doing pre-COVID with even more seating.
Now,
so we
Deborah,
very fortunate.
Oh my God. And you epitomize that if you do good, you get good. That's what
Yes.
I'm a firm believer in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm old enough to have seen it happen.
Exactly. My mom always said, if your fist is closed, you can't receive either. She used to tell me, you will give away anything, everything. My mom had one kid, everybody else on the block had multiple kids, so I always felt a little bit luckier. We always had a little bit more, and I always wanted to give a little bit of what I had. I always wanted to share. And I think that really has held fast throughout this pandemic, and it really has propelled us into a place where now we need bigger space.
It's heartwarming and it's inspirational. And there's feedback all of a sudden, but I know Cindy's probably just trying to broadcast this even louder because we're so brilliant, Deborah. That's it. Poor thing, she can't help herself. She adores us. Let me tell you, that is an uplifting story. Honey, here in LA, one or two women that run their own restaurants that have been friends for 20 years, it seemed bleak. Do you know what I mean? When it first happened, and it is bleak. And when you have to let go of your help or you staff that they have bills, they're hungry. Yeah. It's heartbreaking. But you know what? There is always a way to persevere if you take the high road. Yeah. If you want to feel sorry for yourself, forget it. You're going to drown. Do you know what I mean? I'm speaking from personal experience. If I wake up and I'm feeling sorry for myself, I only give myself a few minutes because I think we've got one of the luckiest people on the planet.
Yeah.
And I literally look in the mirror, I fuck you. You are fucking Denise.
Yeah. You have to kick yourself in the ass every now and then,
I think I've had the most idyllic life in the world. And any crap that happened, I jumped in myself. It was no one else's fault. So now, out of the restaurant. So now, how did you decide to write the cookbook? Did they find you? Did you have ideas? How did it come about?
I attended a little seminar, a little dinner and seminar with the Lee brothers were speaking. And I found them quite entertaining. And at that point, cookbook just wasn't really in my thought. I listened to them and they spoke of, do you have a cookbook in you? Do you have a story in you? And I know my story is quite different for a middle-aged senior, maybe African-American woman from Kansas City, Missouri. It is a little bit different story. And I know my viewpoint on food and what I experienced, I have kept it in, other than the few people who are around me or people who cook with me, they get little bits and pieces of it. But I felt like it was some things that I needed to speak forth louder. And with that, just focusing on similarities, because that was the thing that struck me during all my travels and all the things I've seen, is the similarities in cuisine, and how one culture's cuisine can be looked upon negatively, but the other culture can serve the same thing and it is revered. That did not sit well with me, and I wanted to speak about it. And the cookbook, that was a way of speaking about it and trying to let people hear my voice a little bit louder, or understand why I do what I do. I've had food critics say, oh, she had fish and spaghetti. Who does that? That doesn't make sense. Well, if you're from the Midwest, that's how you eat it. So if you learn some of the history, you may find out that a lot of things make sense to somebody. May not make sense to you, but there's reasons behind it before you start judging. And, I wanted to do a cookbook that kind of encompassed that.
Well, I think you have, and I'm only halfway through your book, but I absolutely love it.
Thank you.
I grew up in San Francisco. My family was Italian, and we in the 50s, Deborah. And of course, we had this funny last name with too many vowels, and my grandfather spoke in very broken English. And I knew that people made fun of us sometimes as Italians, even though we lived in an area that everybody was Italian now as I've gotten older. But as a child, I wanted my name to be like Deborah Smith. I did. I wanted that last name that everyone could pronounce and everybody could write. But why I loved your foreword so much, we ate beef. My grandfather was a butcher. My father was a butcher. So we ate chitlins, we ate tongue, we ate the shortbread, sweetbreads. My grandfather made head cheese. He made all his own sausages, and they would be hanging in the basement along with his Cadillac, of course. And I used to think, do we have to drive Cadillacs? That's like the most stereotypical. Could we buy something else? And no, we're buying American car. And then we had barrels of the wine that my grandmother made. And everybody, and we'd go to the Napa Valley a lot because all the Italians had moved to the Napa Valley. So I totally, when I was reading your book, it brought back fond memories to my childhood. But if friends came for dinner, it's like, I remember even being a little child, kind of scooting the head cheese right by them. I'd say, oh, you won't like that. Or, and there's prosciutto. Or if they saw mortadella, they all thought it was bologna anyway. So they eat that. But some of the more exotic foods, oxtails was another one. I remember thinking, crap, I've got this hard to pronounce last name. And now
we're eating oxtail.
Oxtail. But of course we ate it. One, because my father and his father were butchers. So they were using every part of the animal.
Yeah.
My father used to say every time, you know what, the pig is an amazing animal, as he would sketch pigs like on cocktail napkins. Nothing you can't eat on a pig, he'd say. And I can remember all of it so vividly. And of course, we should all be eating like that. And we are much more now. And food from our ancestors is really important. But I love the line in your book.
Yes.
We are not our ancestors anymore. So that's why your book, which I haven't said the name, The Twisted Soul Cookbook, it is modern soul food with global flavors.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
I
you.
hope you feel very, very proud of yourself because, and I'm sure you got this in your seminar, writing a book's a lot of work.
Yeah, I didn't listen to that part as much as I should because it was, and I had a meltdown.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I had my meltdown, and like, okay, get past it.
Cindy and I have jointly written. Cindy, the first two, she wasn't there yet, but the last 7, Cindy and I wrote these books together. Now, let me tell you something, Deborah, I would be very dramatic during the middle of, I had a meltdown on everyone. Halfway through the contract, I would have a meltdown. And I cut my finger once on one of them, just cut my finger, not with a knife, like I was reframing something. Of course, I was procrastinating. So of course I'm doing something I shouldn't do. And it was a cut and I bandaged it. And I said to Cindy, I hope you realize that this is a cry for help. This is like a suicide attempt because I can't do it again. It's a very hard thing. And when I just think that most people can't appreciate how much work goes into a cookbook until they've done it.
Yeah, I agree.
Really well, you deserve all the praise. You deserve all the praise in the world, lady.
Thank you so much.
Now, I got to see you. I haven't watched your Rachel Ray appearance, but I got to see you on the Today Show. And that's when I wanted to have you on the podcast. And I need people to know I was stalking Deborah every time. I was stalking her. And then when you replied, I thought, oh, thank God, and you were so sweet. You just said, I've been busy. And I thought, she's thinking, well, because I'm known for that. And I need to tell you what, I've had people say to me, okay, meaning publishers in the olden days, if I talk to you or publish your book, will you stop calling me? And then I'd say, okay. So I cannot thank you enough. Cindy and I was the culinary producer on one of Rachel Ray's shows when she was still with Food Network.
Oh, wow.
So when I saw you were going to be on Rachel Ray, I thought, oh, they're going to like each other because
instantly.
This is what I started to say. I'm sorry. ADD. You were so good on the Today Show.
Oh, thank you.
And you were in your kitchen and here we're having you do all these, no one's in studio anymore, but you have a natural presence, Deborah. And I mean that and I've worked with a whole lot of people. And you are absolutely fabulous. So that's why I want to meet you. That's why.
Thank you so much.
Now, my darling, I hope you'll come back and visit with us again someday soon.
Oh, yes.
Because there's so many more things you could talk to us about, more talking about food. And I'm with you. The similarities, the first time I was ever in Kenya, Deborah, on safari, I got to go, and all I got was this bread at the table at this beautiful little place we were eating in, and the food came down, and I kept saying to Michael, food is from India, and you could just see the spice trail as it had left India and came down to Africa. Yeah, those trails of food all over, and high on the hog. We haven't mentioned that, of course. I know. Now, I met Dr. Jessica at ICP, same place I met Leah Chase, same place I met Edna Lewis when they were all still alive. So these modern goddesses of food. Yes. But Dr. Harris, which I could have seen, I'm hoping that show, the first time I read her book, all I thought to myself is this is a TV show. So that was in 1994. So it's taken us 25 years to get that. I don't know why it's taken us so long. And hopefully there's going to be more of it coming. Do you know what I mean?
I hope so too. Yes.
I'm on board. You are the next generation.
Yeah. I'm a part of it. Yeah.
But it's so exciting. I thank you so much for your time.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.
Now listen. People, if you want to contact us, you go to our Facebook page, also called Women Beyond a Certain Age. Cindy puts up all information about you, Deborah, so if people want to reach out to you, and if you have questions, you contact us at womenbeyond@icloud.com. But if you're looking to buy a cookbook, and so many of the women that listen to us, and then, Deborah, we get notes sometimes, and they're from men, and I think to myself,
nice.
I know I love that. The Deborah's cookbook is called The Twisted Soul Cookbook, modern soul food with global flavors. And I mean, this is a book you want to read, cook from, and enjoy. It would be a beautiful gift for someone also.
Nice.
And thank you, Miss Cindy, as always. Miss Cindy, who keeps the train on the tracks. Because
Thank you, Miss Cindy.
yeah, because most of the time, Deborah, I'm, as you can tell already, I operate confused, okay? I can't help it. Who I am. Thank you so much.
You were so good.
Talk to you again.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.